Hello and welcome to Flipped IGCSE Biology, Unit B4 Nutrition. This is Lesson 3, Digestion. In this lesson we're going to have a bit of an overview of digestion and you're going to learn about what happens in the mouth. So, firstly, what is digestion? The whole point of digestion is to break down large, insoluble food molecules that you take in when you eat your food into smaller ones which are soluble. These smaller molecules are then eventually absorbed into your blood through the wall of your small intestine. Without digestion, you wouldn't be able to get any of the nutrition from your food. Now we can think of the digestive system kind of like as a hole that runs right the way through your body. Food goes in through your mouth and is ejected through your anus. And a lot of people use this kind of donut analogy in the fact that food goes in one side of the donut and comes out of the donut on the other side. Food will never come in direct contact with any of your internal organs or your bloodstream. Now, before we start, you need a little bit of vocabulary here. So the technical word for putting food into your body is ingestion. Then next, the process of digestion happens inside all of your digestive system. And finally, egestion happens, and egestion is just the elimination of food through the anus. Now we as organisms, as humans, we have an entry hole, your mouth, and an exit hole, your anus. Some animals actually only have one hole, so food goes in their mouth and exits through their mouth as well. Here's an overview of the digestive system. So, quite obviously at the start we've got the mouth there, and here on this diagram you can see the palate. All the palate is like a sort of section of bone which divides your mouth and separates it from your nose. And the yellow things we can see here are the salivary glands. So when you swallow your food, it passes down through the esophagus. This here is the British spelling. You may also see this word written without the O at the start. Then the food arrives at the stomach. And next to the stomach you'll see the largest internal organ of your body, which is the liver. Inside the liver you've got the gallbladder. We'll learn more about that in the next lesson. Just underneath the stomach here you have the pancreas. So food exits your stomach and it passes into the small intestine. Now the main parts of the small intestine you need to know about IGCSE, the duodenum and the ileum. So the first part of the small intestine is called the duodenum, and then the main sort of wiggly part there you can see in the middle is the ileum. From the small intestine the food passes into your large intestine next. The main part of your large intestine is called the colon, and you'll see the little part sticking down there which is actually your appendix. Food travels all the way along the colon, from the left-hand side, down the right-hand side, and eventually is stored in the blue area there, which is called the rectum, before it is released through the anus when you go to the toilet. So, the mouth. Mouth has two main purposes for digestion. The first one is that it starts to physically digest food, so that means when you chew, you break the food down into smaller pieces. This gives the food a large surface area. Also, the tongue moves the food around the mouth and saliva is added. Now, saliva lubricates the food so that when you swallow it can pass down your esophagus very easily. And also, saliva contains an enzyme called amylase. This salivary amylase starts the process of digestion by breaking down starch into maltose. You also need to know about the teeth. Here we've got one of my teeth x-rays here. You have 4 different types of teeth you need to know about. So we've got incisors. You've got 8 incisors. They're the 8 very front teeth that you have. These teeth have got what we call a chisel shape, and they're used for biting and cutting your food. You can just imagine an apple. You need your incisors to take the piece out of the apple. Next along you've got the canines. You've got 4 of these canines. They are pointed, the ones you'll see very clearly on a dog or a vampire, and these teeth are very useful for piercing and tearing. Very useful when eating meat. That's why dogs and carnivores in general have very large canines. Next to the canines you've got 8 premolars and 12 molars. These teeth serve a very similar process, similar purpose in digestion in your mouth. They just grind and chew the food to kind of mush it up into a more liquidy form. The difference between molars and premolars is you've got 8 premolars and 12 molars. So the first 2 large teeth are premolars and they have got 2 roots, and the next 3 behind them are the molars, which have 3 roots. Now if things go wrong in your mouth, you can suffer from tooth decay. We've got some pictures here of what it can look like. Inside your mouth all the time you've got many bacteria living there. Now normally this doesn't cause a problem, but it can do. Bacteria mix with saliva and they live very happily in your mouth in a substance called plaque. Now when you eat, any sugary food that you eat might get a bit stuck between your teeth if you do not brush your teeth after your food. Now this is the perfect food for the bacteria. So the bacteria multiply and feed off the sugar, and as a waste product they produce acid. This acid is bad news for your tooth. It can attack the surface of it and start to kind of make a hole in your tooth. The acid will also make your gums red and swollen, and long term it could even lead to your teeth falling out. This is called periodontal disease, and what happens is the fibres that hold the root in place actually are dissolved and rot away, and this means that the teeth will fall out eventually. Here is the bibliography.